Addictive Families for Beginners.
How important is it for family members to take part in family sessions in rehabs?
I think it's very important. The family were involved at the height of the addiction problems, so it would be sensible for them to be involved in the recovery process as well.
What would they learn?
That addiction in their loved ones is not the family's fault. They didn't cause it, they can't control it, and they can't cure it.
Then why, in survivors' workshops in some rehabs, are addicts encouraged to express their feelings of anger and resentment towards their family members?
I don't like the concept of addicts being survivors. My family survived me and my addiction. My behaviour was dreadful.
Did you get through your childhood without abuse or abandonment?
No, I had plenty from all sorts of people, but I also dished the dirt. Life in addicted families is always difficult.
Then why don't you want to express your feelings about it?
Because I don't think it would help me or my family. We've yelled at each other enough. It's time to understand, forgive, and move on.
Why not forget?
Sometimes traumatic memories get stuck.
Then surely we should let the anger out.
It doesn't come out through enabling people to become even better at blame and self-pity than they were already.
So what does help?
EMDR is a psychological process that particularly helps to relieve post-traumatic stress disorder.
But what can people in traumatised families do to help themselves?
Each family member can be helped by learning to take responsibility for his or her own actions and reactions.
Actions I can understand, but being responsible for reactions must be difficult.
Yes, it is. But that's what we have to do if we want to make progress in our relationships. And families can be helped by learning the difference between being responsible to someone, setting a good example, or for them, sometimes doing too much for them.
Shouldn't family members tell the addicts, for their own good, how awful they were?
They probably know that already. They may be more open about acknowledging their stupidities when unprompted by anyone else.
But that might never happen, and that would mean they would get clean away with it.
If they're in full denial, it might be best to have a family session with a professional counsellor who has experience of interventions.
What would that achieve?
My own baseline position in those situations is that there should be no blood on the carpet. They shouldn't develop into open warfare.
So what do you aim for?
Understanding on both sides, and then healing the relationships.
Who should understand what?
Addicts need to understand just how self-centered they've been and how much damage they've caused.
That'll be the day.
Yes, but it will happen if they get into good recovery by working in the 12-step program. They also need to see how much they're loved and how difficult life has been for those who love them.
But what if they were abused by those very people who say they love them?
The counsellor should be able to allow that to be said. The session should be fair to both sides so that by the end there are no sides.
And what should family members understand?
They tend to want to understand why the addict did whatever it was that he or she did. That's pointless.
Why?
Because it gives the addict the chance to heap all the blame onto the family. Those family members who are compulsive helpers will buy into that, and the dual dance to death will continue.
What's that?
Addicts and compulsive helpers are hooked into each other's fearful behaviour.
In what way?
The addict wants to be fixed by some magical outside process, rather than from within through working on his or her own recovery.
Yes, I've seen that. They're always on the lookout to get something for nothing.
The compulsive helper wants to be needed and will go looking for any opportunity to be useful.
But that's lovely.
It could be for people who really needed and wanted the help, but addicts would take advantage of the compulsive helper's kindness and generosity.
Oh, that's very unpleasant.
It certainly is, from both sides. They make each other worse in this codependent relationship. Oh, by the way, that's the only time I would ever use the word codependent.
Why?
Because sometimes it has too many other meanings for it to have any clear meaning at all.
I wondered why I found it so confusing.
What we're looking at here is a genuine folie à deux. The compulsive helper and the addict are each as hooked as the other. Progressively, they destroy each other.
So how do they stop doing that?
Through working their own 12-step program, independently of each other.
Are all family members compulsive helpers?
No, certainly not. Some are normal, whatever that may be. I wouldn't know because I'm both an addict and a compulsive helper.
Isn't that rather confusing?
No, I always know which hat I'm wearing. For example, I'm an addict to compulsive helpers, and I'm a compulsive helper to addicts.
Don't you have any relationships with people who have no addiction of any kind?
With civilians who are not involved in the battle we have with addiction, yes, lots of them. But I have to say that addicts of all kinds and compulsive helpers are my people. I understand them. I'm at ease with them. I like working with them.
Even when they attack you? As they must do sometimes if you get in the way of what they want to do.
Yes, even then. I've given out plenty of aggro in my time. It doesn't hurt me to be on the receiving end. That's why probably only those of us who are addicts or compulsive helpers ourselves can do this work with addicted families.
Don't you tie yourself in knots?
No. With my family background and my own compulsive behavior, I've been ideally trained for the work I do. I've played all the psychological games myself.
So where does it all come from?
I think that both addiction and compulsive helping are genetically inherited. That's why we have to work the 12 steps, one day at a time, for life.
That's a tall order.
It's better than the alternative of continuing addiction.
Yes, I suppose so. But if all this runs in families, how does it show, first of all?
Some counsellors believe that children in addictive families have stereotypical roles. The hero, the scapegoat, the lost child, and the mascot. I think that's helpful only to a degree.
What degree?
To the point when theory takes over from observing the patient in front of you, rather than trying to fit him or her into a diagnostic box.
But people must have a diagnosis, so that they and their families can be helped.
Again, that's true only up to the point of losing sight of the individuals behind the diagnostic labels.
So what background is important for family counsellors?
Being old enough to have seen it all and having a family of our own. That would be a good start. After that, you have to be trained.
For how long?
For life, I suppose. I'm still learning about families every day.
Does childhood upbringing make a difference?
Yes, inevitably it does. But often the best thing about our childhoods is that they're over. We need to move on. And as counsellors, help other families to do the same.
What if the addicts or the compulsive helpers in the family get stuck in a rut?
They do sometimes. They may benefit from some tough love.
What's that? It sounds paradoxical.
A really loving act is to tell the truth, supportively and gently, rather than hide the unattractive features. Doing that is tough for the person doing it as well as for the one on the receiving end.
So how does it all end up if things go really well?
with a clear set of agreed values and practical principles. Being in an addictive family is certainly the greatest challenge I've ever faced. We need all the help we can get.